I started the diary because I couldn't stand the sound of my own thoughts anymore. Not the thoughts, the loop. Same fear, same what if. Same midnight spiral until dawn, smeared gray across my blinds. A diary sounded harmless. Paper can't ping you. The cover was plain black, cheap looking, but it smelled faintly like rain on warm concrete. I remember leaning in and inhaling like an idiot. That first night I wrote 3 pages and fell asleep with ink on my fingers. In the morning I opened it to keep going, and my stomach dipped. Beneath my last sentence, I just want quiet. There was a new paragraph. Same pen, same ink, same little smudge where my hand had rested, but I hadn't written it. It described the dream I'd had after I passed out. Not vaguely. In petty, sharp details, the squeak of a swing set chain, the taste of pennies, a streetlight flickering twice. I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't even remembered it until I read it. And then the memory snapped into place like it had been waiting. Half asleep, I told myself. Sleep writing. That was the only explanation that kept the room from tipping. That night, I tested it. I wrote 1 sentence and shut the diary hard, like I was trapping a bug. I put it on the highest shelf in my closet and taped the door shut with 3 neat strips of blue painter's tape. I went to bed with the light on. At 2:41 a.m., I woke up to a sound from inside the closet. Scratch, scratch, like a pen moving on paper. The tape on the closet door was perfectly still. Scratch, pause, scratch, scratch. I didn't open it. I lay there with my hands clenched, waiting for my courage to return. In the morning, the tape was unbroken. The diary was on my nightstand. Open. A new line waited under my sentence. You were very brave to pretend you couldn't hear it. Heat crawled up my neck like embarrassment, except there was no one here to embarrass me. I slammed it shut. My palms smelled like ink afterward. For 2 days I avoided it. I worked, I ate, I scrolled, I acted normal. The diary sat on my table like a dark phone that refused to die. On the 3rd day I opened it again, and the next entry had today's date written neatly at the top. It wasn't about dreams. It described my afternoon. It said that at 3:18 p.m. I'd snagged my left thumb on the edge of a manila folder, then pretend the sting didn't bother me, then reread an email with the subject line, quick question, 3 times. I checked the time, 2:57. I checked my thumb, no mark. My mouth went dry. At 3:10, I stared at my left hand like it was the only thing keeping a secret. At 3:18, I reached for a folder I didn't need, just to prove it wrong. The paper edge brushed my skin. A sharp little sting flashed, then faded, leaving a pale line that looked more like a warning than an injury. Not dramatic, just exact. The email came. The subject line matched the diary word for word. That night I did something worse than panic. I tried to negotiate. I wrote, "What do you want?" The ink sank into the page too fast, like the paper was thirsty. Under my question, a response appeared, letter by letter, as if my eyes were dragging it into existence. "Only for you to be honest? Start at the thing you've been skipping." My stomach dropped because I knew what it meant. There was one memory I kept circling like a drain. A night 2 years ago, a missed call, a voicemail I deleted without listening. I'd built a whole routine out of not touching it. I wrote, "No." This time the diary waited, like it was letting me have my little tantrum. When the answer came, it felt colder. "That's okay, you'll still write it. You always do." Always. That word didn't belong in my life. It belonged in a loop. I spent the next day doing rational things. I bought an air quality monitor. I opened windows. I Googled sleep writing until my eyes hurt. The little screen stayed calm and ordinary. So I did the next rational thing. I filmed myself sleeping. I aimed my phone at my bed. I locked the diary in a kitchen drawer under old batteries. I even slept with my bedroom door locked. When I watched the footage in the morning, my face went numb. At 3:13 a.m., the audio picked up the same soft scratching. At 3:14, the camera glitched, just a smear of pixels, like someone dragged a finger across wet paint. Then the image steadied. My bed was empty. The sheets were flattened like someone had just stood up. The diary lay open on the floor, pages fluttering as if a fan was on. There is no fan in my room. Off camera, somewhere near the closet, I heard paper turning. The video ended at 4:02 a.m. when my phone overheated and shut off. I sat on the edge of my bed replaying the empty bed segment until me stopped feeling like a solid concept. After I watched the footage, I checked my hands. Under my nails was a thin, dark line, like I'd been handling old newsprint. When I scrubbed the water in the sink, tinted faintly gray, and the same rain-on-concrete smell rose up. I hadn't touched the diary all night. I opened the kitchen drawer where I'd locked it, half hoping it would be gone just to prove I'd lost my mind. It was there, closed, warm, like it had been held. I wrote in my neon spiral notebook instead. Fast, messy sentences. This isn't real. This is anxiety. This is my brain. I underlined it 3 times. When I looked back a minute later, the underlines had softened into perfect straight lines, as if someone had traced over my shaking hand. In the margin, new ink had appeared. Blaming yourself is a cute shortcut. It saves time. I dropped the spiral notebook like it had bitten me, so I tried destruction. I carried the black diary to the sink and tore out a page. The paper resisted, stretchy in a way paper shouldn't be, then snapped free with a sound like a sigh. I ran the page under the faucet and rubbed hard, expecting the ink to bloom and vanish. It didn't. The letters held their shape, crisp as printed type, while water slid off the fibers like the page had turned into something slick. The smell wasn't soap or paper. It was that same warm concrete rain smell, stronger now, like I'd opened a memory I wasn't supposed to. I dropped the page into the sink, and it lay there intact, shining. Behind me, from the closed diary, came a soft scratch, patient as breathing. The fridge hummed. My ceiling creaked. Everything normal tried to keep its job. That night I tried to get rid of the diary for real. I walked it to the building's dumpster and threw it in. I watched it land under a pizza box. I shut the lid. I went upstairs without looking back. My apartment smelled like rain on warm concrete. The diary sat on my kitchen table, perfectly centered, like a product photo. Open. You really don't like taking the stairs when you're scared, it said. I couldn't keep pretending this was normal. My hands moved on their own. I flipped through pages like I was searching for a seam. Near the back, I found something I hadn't seen before. A transcript written in neat lines, like typed text. A voicemail transcript. Timestamp, 2 years ago. My throat tightened as I read the first sentence. It wasn't the person I'd been blaming myself for. It wasn't anyone I knew. It was me. My exact cadence, my nervous little laugh, the way I swallow a word when I'm trying not to cry. The transcript read, "Hey, if you're hearing this, you're doing the thing again. You're trying to outsmart it by not looking." My skin prickled. "I'm not calling from the past," my voice said on the page. "I'm calling from the part you keep cutting out. The diary isn't predicting you, it's editing you. Editing. Ink is just memory with better posture," it continued. "Every time you refuse to write what happened, it writes around it. It fills the gap with something smoother. That's why it feels like fate. You're living inside a revision." The room felt suddenly too bright, too flat, like a set. I flipped back to the first entry, the dream paragraph about the swing set, the pennies, the flickering streetlight. It didn't feel like a dream anymore. It felt like a memory I'd been given permission to call a dream. And then, like a curtain tearing, something opened in my head. A different room, smaller hands, the same black diary on a desk that wasn't mine now. A kid version of me writing, in wobbly letters, "I just want quiet." And beneath it, a second paragraph appearing on its own. "You are very brave to pretend you couldn't hear it." My breath caught. This wasn't a new haunting. It was an old habit I'd edited out so completely, I'd convinced myself it never happened. I looked closer at the first page. Under my adult handwriting, faint indentations dented the paper. Older, smaller, pressed deep like scars. The original layer. I hadn't started this diary, I had continued it. All my life, whenever the truth got too sharp, I'd reached for the same book and let it sand the edges down until I could live with myself again. That's why it always came back. It belonged to the part of me that couldn't stand to feel. The scratching started again, inside the closed cover this time, confident, steady, like it had all night. My phone buzzed on the table. One new voicemail. Unknown number, timestamp, now. I didn't press play, I didn't need to, because the diary was already open, already writing the transcript in neat, perfect letters that looked like my hand on a flawless day. And at the top of the page, it wrote the line I always read right before everything went quiet. "Start at the thing you've been skipping. It's still writing." A single line at the bottom, small as a whisper, waits for me to notice it. Quiet is what's left after revisions. It wants the final draft. It's the